Welcome to Love Talk. My name is Gregory Morgan. Today I'm going to be talking about the importance of the initiation of young men by older, wiser men. This is something that is missing in most societies today, and because it is missing, it's had a drastic effect on the level of criminal activity, on the level of the economy, on the level of violence in our communities and in our world, on the level of unmarried mothers, children being raised without fathers, broken families. So there's been a number of negative effects, and ancient cultures knew, aware of, the idea that if young men were not taken at a certain age, around just after puberty or during puberty, taken by the older and wiser men of the tribe or the clan or the community, initiated into what it is to be a man, and in this case I'm talking about being an honorable man. Today, the idea of wise and honorable men who provide and protect for society has pretty much become an oxymoron, has pretty much become something that people speak of like in the past, but not something that people are speaking of or thinking of in present day terms. Today, if you speak disrespectfully, disparagingly about women, if you express something negative about women, you're seen as being a heathen or being unenlightened. But if you speak disrespectfully or make fun of men, it almost seems as if you're socially with it, like you're up on how it really is. And if you look at the commercials and stuff that you see today, you listen to the commercials, you'll often see as a theme, a weak or spineless man or a childish-like man speaking in a childish voice, saying childish things, while an older, wiser, or even a younger, wiser, more adult, hip woman is sort of telling him what to do in a way that makes him look silly and makes her look really smart. I've got nothing against this personally, except for that it has become a modality of the day. And so the young men of today, and I'm talking directly about the men that are in their teenage years, who are approaching young adulthood, those young men, not only are they not receiving proper guidance and development from the older, wiser men of the tribe, they are accepting as the way that it is, that men are dumb or they're less responsible or that they never grow up and they stay childish. And I can't overemphasize enough how dangerous that is to our world and to our society. And we're seeing more and more of the negative effect of that. We're seeing more and more not taking responsibility, not growing up, and in some cases becoming what we call the negative warrior. I've had the good fortune in my life to have been raised by men who put honor and integrity above the other things in their life. And to do that, to become a husband and to become a father, to be a man who is mated to a woman and responsible for a home, is to put one's feelings aside, very often, as you all know, to put one's preferences aside, to, in other words, put others ahead of himself in terms of their feelings, in terms of their needs and wants. That's what it means to provide and to protect women and children. Men are not necessarily designed to want to provide and protect women and children. They're mostly hunters and warriors, and women are mostly evolved from gatherers, not necessarily protectors. They are the ones requiring protection in our primal state because of their because they could get pregnant, because they needed to care for children, because men had larger, stronger bodies that were more resistant to things. As we developed over time, men became the providers and protectors, and not necessarily were integrated into the feeling nature, into the emotional nature that is required to have profound and deep and meaningful relationships with women and children. So it is an acquired state. It is an acquired ability for men to grow into their deeper feelings and to their heartfelt feelings about women and children. And women and children are simply lovable because they exist, because they're adorable, because they're beautiful. So I want to talk today about the difference between what we call an exterior warrior. This is a man who has hardened himself against his feelings, hardened himself against his softer, more childlike nature, and who has become perhaps indeed a provider and protector, but who is very clannish, very, in other words, he only, his scope is only about his tribe, his team, and all others are to be vanquished. All others are considered a threat. This is a kind of man who could become toxic to society, and who is not necessarily connected with his own interior or spiritual nature. I want to distinguish between that type of a warrior or a man and what I want to call a spiritual warrior. And a spiritual warrior is a man who lives by words that we might call nobility, dignity, honor, duty, love of humanity, service, responsibility. These are words that a spiritual warrior that not only serve to describe his principles, but they are facts of life for him. A spiritual warrior seeks to perfect himself. A spiritual warrior is not searching for outer enemies. A spiritual warrior is somebody who is fighting a battle against his own negativity, his own fears, his own alcoholism, his own laziness, his own anger and rage. In other words, he is mastering himself for the sake of all mankind, for the sake of women and children and all other, for humanity. And he may expand that to include small animals and the planet or the environment. A spiritual warrior is one who has actually taken on his manhood, and he would naturally take on the teaching and the development of young men, knowing that they too will be facing their own inner toxic battles and could potentially become a danger to society. So out of his love for humanity, out of his respect for mankind, out of his protective nature for women and children and the environment, and he would take on of his own accord, whether anybody else did it or not, fathering or mentoring the younger men. This is something that I believe has completely escaped us as a society as we've become more and more politically correct. Can you imagine correcting another person's child? Can you imagine the repercussions? Legally, socially, economically, if you were to take upon yourself to correct somebody who you saw was out of line socially, people don't do that anymore. It's just completely considered out of line. It's socially unacceptable behavior, isn't it? And yet, if you want to be responsible for all of it, if you chose to be a spiritual warrior, if you chose to, if anything in what I'm saying calls to you as a man. So I'm speaking to you, because the world needs you now. The world needs you, and they need me. The world needs the men to stand up, really. Stand up not just for yourself, but for manhood. Stand up for manhood. Manhood's starting to get a bad rap. Men in today's societies are no longer proud to be a man, because it is that, like I mentioned earlier in the show, it's simply no longer associated with something that's honorable, something that's wise, something that's noble. So manhood is associated with something that is macho or stupid or boneheaded. And the macho man, let me talk a little bit about the macho man, all right? The one we call the macho. The macho is a man who is perhaps not even certain, not very sure of his own masculinity. So he tends to exaggerate the outer aspects of manhood, to be tough, to be gruff, to be not uncaring, in order to appear as if he had attained or somehow acquired the status of a spiritual warrior or of a fighter, in order to appear that he is unconcerned because he's a man. This would be what I call the macho man. A man who is uncertain of his own masculinity will have a tendency to be macho and to try to act macho. And you see this a lot with teenage guys who, they're not a boy anymore, but they're not quite a man either, and there's no man around to guide them honorably and with dignity into the realm of other warriors, other men. So they're raised by their peers, by their equals. Who they look up to is, I don't know, the most popular guy in school, or the guy with the most money, or the best drugs, or the coolest car, or whose parents live in a cool neighborhood, or whatever. In other words, what they base their respect and their honor on has nothing to do with true honor, true dignity, true nobility. It has to do with the symbols of nobility and honor and dignity, with the symbols of toughness or strength. So you will find them attracted to sports stars and rappers and rock stars. And hey, listen, all of that's good. I like all those things too. Let's don't get me wrong. I grew up with rock and roll and macho guys and fast cars and all that stuff, and I love all that stuff too. However, there is a distinction between the outer symbols of strength and power and nobility and wisdom and insight, and the actual inner correspondence. So what you find is what I call tin heroes. They're made of paper. They're hollow inside. If you poke at them, they'll get all uptight and uppity, but if you poke in deeper, you'll find that they're empty inside and there's no real true core strength. There may be some kind of meanness that comes out of fear. You know, I'm learning a lot about this fear aggression because I have a couple of little puppies. I have two little puppies, and I have one's a female and one's a male, and they're brother and sister. They're born together. One is totally fearless. Completely, she's just not, it's the girl, and she's not afraid of anything. And the other one has what I call fear aggression. He's afraid, so he acts aggressive out of fear. So if anything is threatening, he could potentially become aggressive, but not before he goes through several cycles of trying to hide and get away and be fearful. And then all of a sudden he'll be aggressive as a reaction to his fear, but not out of a true fearlessness. And it's very much like teenage boys or a lot of younger men that I see today. They're acting tough. They're looking tough. They get the, rather than, I laugh because I grew up in a time when, you know, you bought brand new jeans and it took a long time to wear them in. Today you buy distressed jeans and you pay hundreds of dollars to get them more and more ugly and distressed so that it looks as if you've had a life. It looks as if you've got character. You know, worn leather jackets and beat up jeans and beat up shoes, all distressed at the factory as a way of looking like, when you buy them brand new, that you've worn them for a while, that you've been around, that you've got some character, that you've lived a rough and tumble life, that you've had some adventure, when in fact you just went down and bought those and you paid, you know, triple or quadruple to have that distressed look. I find this amusing personally. But be that as it may, this has given birth to an entire 2 or 3 generations now of young men who, rather than actually doing something to acquire the character, rather than building something in their own interior core, a type of fortitude based on discipline and honor and integrity, those words have been thrown out the window, and in fact, I've worked in workshops where I've brought these concepts up, and people have raised their hands and asked me to explain, what do I mean by honor? What do I mean by integrity? And I realize that the concept has all but slipped away in my lifetime, in a short period of time. Not that my lifetime has been that short, but compared to the history of mankind, it is. It means that in my lifetime it could completely go out of existence. In your lifetime, the concepts of and ideals of honor and integrity and mastery are slipping away. Mastery, let's talk about that for a minute. Mastery is doing something over and over again, repeatedly, expanding beyond your limitations, moving consciously and willfully into your outside of your comfort zone and into the unknown outside of your comfort zone. It's easy to be a master inside your household, inside your bedroom, inside your backyard. You know, inside your limitations, it's easy to master that. You're all masters of something. If you're watching this show, regardless of who you are or where you are, you've mastered many things. You've mastered everything from brushing your teeth and tying your shoes to driving a car to getting dressed, whatever else you've mastered in your life, but there's many, many things that you have mastered. Now, what about mastering certain distinctions like can you reliably be counted upon to respond with integrity in every situation, under any circumstances, at all time? Like, tell the truth, be true to yourself, have integrity. Whether anybody was watching you or not, whether anybody would ever know that you responded or acted in that way or not. Even in your own privacy, you do the things that are the right thing to do, the honorable thing to do, because it's the honorable thing to do. Isn't that how you would want your children to be raised? Wouldn't it be great? I'm standing for living in a world, if we all lived in a world where people did the right thing because it was the right thing to do, because their own internal guidance system told them it was the right thing. And they did that because it's what was going to serve others and themselves in the highest sense. Wouldn't it be great if the people in your life, your husbands, your wives, your children, always could be counted on to do the right thing because that was the right thing to do, and they know the difference? Now, that doesn't mean that people don't make mistakes. People do make mistakes, but there's something I call honorable mistakes, where you've done your best and it wasn't good enough, or you did your best and you just simply made a mistake. All there is to do is to catch that, to see that when it happens, and go, well, that didn't work. That didn't work. So you correct and continue, right? You make a correction. Oh, that didn't work. Okay, great. I'm not going to do that anymore. And then you continue. What most people do is, well, that didn't work this time, but let's try it again another time, or another time, or another time. And they keep doing the same mistakes over and over and over. I would call that a dishonorable mistake. That's not a mistake. That's intentionally doing something you know doesn't work over and over again. That's insane. And no mastery. Well, in fact, you master doing it the wrong way. You master doing what doesn't work. And how many of us have mastered doing what doesn't work? I know that there's several things that I've done in my life that I've had to work on because I had done it a way that didn't work so many times that I thought, I kept thinking this should work, this ought to work. One day I'll make it work. Maybe if I just change this a little bit, it'll work. To tell you the truth, that's how I came to be really on this show and teaching the seminars and workshops that I teach, is because I made enough mistakes, enough errors and judgments, and paid enough and in pain and suffering, and often in finances, to be able to correct myself and to find a way that is truer and more reliable, but actually truer to myself and truer to my own highest good. And those are the things really that I'm here to share with you on this show and on at Embrace Growth, in our seminars and workshops and on these TV shows, is to really share with you the knowledge. Knowledge is just knowledge, okay? Knowledge is a bunch of data stacked up. And knowledge is good, but wisdom is knowledge that has been applied over and over throughout time to the point to where it becomes who you are. So it's no longer a thought or a memory or something that you've written down and that you have to read to remind yourself. Wisdom is something that you know yourself from your own core. And so I'm here to share my knowledge and wisdom with you about what works and doesn't work in relationships. Now, I'm getting a couple of calls, and I'm going to go ahead and take those calls. All right, this is Gregory. Hello, you are live on the air.
Hi, Dr. Morgan.
Hi,
how are you today?
Good, I'm happy, thank you.
I just have a question for you.
Yes?
I'm 25-year-old, and basically I'm very concerned with my education and my work. You know, I'm very focused on my job and also school. I'm doing really good at school. You know, I try to achieve as much as I can. You know.
What are you studying?
But the thing is, recently, all of my friends, you know, they've been telling me the only thing that you talk about is just either school or work, you know? Mm-hmm. You don't look around and you don't feel it's been probably 2 years that I haven't, you know, dated anyone, and I have no desire. You know, I feel
okay.
I have no emotion, you know,
okay.
I feel okay, you know, I'm focused on so many other stuff and I'm really busy. I don't even have time, and I don't even care. I feel maybe there is something wrong with me, or I just don't want to go out with anybody, you know, I even cancel my dates, you know, I don't want to go. I feel you know, it's a waste of time, and as as I grow up, like, I wasn't like this before. I used to hang out a lot with friends, and, dated so many guys.
Yeah.
And now I'm kind of like I even took an exam, a psych testing
Yeah.
exam, and basically as far as the empathy part, like, I'm really down. Like,
Well, let me
below
ask
the
you something.
mean average, which is 50. So
Let me ask you something, okay? First of all, I got that you're 25, you're going to school. What are you studying?
Psychology.
You're studying psychology. And yet in the field of empathy, you're like got a 0, right? You failed that.
Yeah.
Okay. And what is it about psychology that would have you spend so much time and energy trying to learn it?
I love psychology, but it's not something that I want to do for my future.
Okay, so you're studying something that you really don't care about
I
to the exclusion of relationships and other people. Even your friends are telling you, hey, there's something out of balance here. You should hear them like nothing's wrong with you. Like, I know that you want to say, well, they think something's wrong with me, or I'm wondering if something's wrong with me, but try that. You're out of balance. There's nothing wrong, but you're out of balance. Because human beings are mental, spiritual, emotional, and physical. Okay? So anytime that you focus on something, well, in this case, you're focusing on a mental activity called studying psychology, right?
yes. Mm-hmm.
All right, so mental. I'm going to guess that very little of that has anything to do with an emotional impact on you.
Right.
Right? So all you're doing is studying the mind as if it were some kind of machine that you were going to diagnose, and you don't even want to do psychology. Okay?
I enjoy it. Don't get me wrong.
Well, yeah, but you're not going to do it. I can already tell you that. You're not going to end up doing psychology as a profession.
No, actually, when I took the test, the result was that I'm going to be a good, law school student, and that's what I want to do,
So you want to do law?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
got it. So you know enough about psychology to know, at least after 2 years of hard study, that I would think that you would know enough to know that there's like left brain activity and right brain activity, yes?
Of course, yes.
Yeah, and left brain is logic, right?
Right.
Language, thinking, reasoning, all that stuff, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And the reason we have logic, thinking, reasoning, and all that is so that we can look ahead and predict what's about to happen, right?
Right.
Now that's a human being's or a human animal's defense system. Like, we don't have big teeth and fangs and all that stuff, but we have this brilliant mind that's able to predict what's about to happen.
Right.
Right? Abstract thinking.
Right.
Yes?
Right.
So we have this great frontal lobe, and that's our protector, really.
Right.
Now think about this for a minute, logically. What is logical, abstract thinking, predicting what's about to happen? What is that all about?
Well, logical thinking, basically, we are referring to think real,
No, not real. Not real. The logical thinker likes to think that it's real. If we had more time and we were like in a workshop environment or something, you would really begin to question if that's real at all. Okay? So I'm going to cut to the chase a little bit. It's all about protection. It's all about security and survival. Would you agree?
Yes.
So it's all about security. And why know all that stuff if it wasn't about security and survival?
Right.
Okay, so let's take that piece and put it on the side for a second. So we know now that logical thinking is all about security and survival.
Right.
So when you're looking about security and survival, what are you looking for? You're looking for threats.
Right.
You're looking for a threat to your security and survival. Are you looking for love? No. Are you looking for feeling? No. Are you looking for spiritual attainment? No. Are you looking for self-fulfillment? No. Are you looking for full self-expression and spontaneity? No. Right?
Yes, right.
So basically, when you're staying in your logical left brain thinking mind day after day, hour after hour, time after time, month after month, you are becoming a defensive, logical thinking machine. Okay? It is just a machinery. It is not supposed to be your life. It's just machinery.
Right.
Now, it's good to have that, right?
Yeah, I think I have it a lot.
Yeah, human beings are here today because we have that. Otherwise, we would have been eaten by the dinosaurs a long time ago.
Right.
Right? So it's good that we have this ability to survive. However, it was never meant to take over your life.
Right, that's true. But how can I control it now? Because I think it's overwhelming.
Well, it is. It's out of balance is all it is. It's just out of balance, right?
Right.
Right? If I went to the gym and I pumped iron every day on my right hand because that's my strongest hand, and I did push-ups on one hand because that's my strongest hand, and I played tennis and everything I did with just my right hand, my left hand would shrink up and my right hand would be like huge, right?
Right.
And I would be out of balance.
That's true.
Right? And then if I had to do something with my left hand, I wouldn't even be able to. Right? If I had to do something strong. So you have to work out both parts of your mind, okay? But in order to be a balanced human being. First of all, you'll be a lousy lawyer if you choose to do that. If you don't have the intuitive, which is on the right brain, feeling, inspired part of you, which, when people like automatically know something,
right,
and you don't know how they know that, but they're really fast, it's because the right and left brain are working together. Right? Because the intuitive thing that has a feeling about it and the logical thing that says that's probably true start working together, and like within a millisecond they see the truth of a situation. That would make a good lawyer. That would make a good doctor, a good healer, a good mother, a good father, a good human being.
That's true.
Right? But it requires being balanced in both parts of yourself. And when I say both, I'm only talking about right brain, left brain. You could develop all of that and become a 300-pound fat person that couldn't do anything.
True.
Right? So I'm talking about physically as well. So you have to develop mentally, physically, and emotionally. So you could, when you say, you have no empathy, that's something you got to work on. And you can do that, and I can tell you how to do that. And then spiritually, you have to develop that spiritual part of you. And, everybody has a different take on what spirituality means. And so I don't choose to interpret it for people here on this television show. I have my own. Right?
Right.
So I wouldn't want to interpret it for you, but I would point you in the direction of anything that is that energetic essence that we say, when it's in your body, you're alive, and when it's out of your body, they say you're dead, right? There's something that's alive there, yes?
Right.
That breathes life into the universe, that is cognizant, and in human beings, it has a unique quality of being aware of itself.
Right.
Being aware of itself, being aware even. Now, what is that? See, you were aware enough to turn on this TV show and to make this call and to say, hey, there's something out of balance here, what should I do? That I call your spiritual essence, or that cognizance, right? That wasn't just your logical brain that did that. Right? Your logical brain would probably tell you to do something else.
Yeah.
Go study. Do more pumps on your right arm, right?
That's true.
Right? That's what it tells you to do, because you're strong there. It doesn't look at itself and go, wow, something's a little askew here. I'm not feeling quite right. Right? So I'm not saying that you should abandon your studies and go out and have a lot of dates and start meditating and join an ashram or take yoga. However, that might not be a bad idea to do that every now and then.
Right. That's so true.
Right?
Yeah.
Go learn to meditate. Go to the gym or play tennis or do whatever it is that you like to do, ride bicycles or something that is physical that makes your body, right, left side of your body work. Yes?
Right. Yes.
And spend some time, see movies that make you cry. Listen to friends' stories and really try to feel what it was they were feeling, in those moments, and imagine yourself being engaged in other things. It will make you more intelligent on the logical side. You will become more brilliant.
Right, so I understand everything that you're saying. Like, one example was a few days ago that I tried, it might sound really funny to you, but I tried so hard to cry, and my tears are dried out. Like, they don't even come out. It's like, it's that bad. Like, nothing makes me upset, like that upset to make me cry, and I feel so bad. Like, I laugh over stuff. You know, I don't cry. Like, I laugh. If anything bothers me or anything upsets me, I just laugh, you know. And it's not right because people are, you know, everybody's getting me wrong. You know, they think like I'm cold-hearted, you know, and I'm just not, you know, I'm not human. You know, they're like, oh, you're so mean, and I'm not trying to be. It just happens, you know. I don't. And you're right. I have to, you know.
Well, I'm going to point you at something here, okay? What happened when you were somewhere around the age of 12?
The first part was actually when I was 14, and I left Iran, and you know, my dad was still in Iran, and I'm here. That was 12. I had to be a student back then too, you know, because my parents were so, you know, strict about everything.
So when you were 14, when you were 14, you came to, are you in the United States or Canada? Where are you at?
Yes, I'm here in California.
You're in California. So you came to California at the age of 14?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say it for you because I already know what it is. You did not belong.
I didn't belong to...
You didn't belong to anything, did you? You didn't belong at school. You didn't belong to the other girls at school. You didn't belong.
No, not really. I didn't really belong to anything in particular, you know.
Yeah, but in Iran you belonged, didn't you? You had your neighborhood, you had your kids, you had your little group of friends, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
sure
you had your language, you had your clothing, you had your religion or whatever else you had there that you grew up belonging in. You didn't have to do anything to belong. You already did, yes?
That's so true, yes.
Okay,
I was so
then
blended in with everybody else.
Okay, then that got ripped away, and there was only you. And we don't even know who you are yet, because at 14, you don't know who you are.
No.
Right? So we stripped away from this belonging place and threw it over into a place where clearly you don't belong. You don't look like them, you don't talk like them, you don't believe like them, you don't dress like them. You just didn't belong there. At least that's what you said to yourself.
Right.
Whether you consciously or verbally said that to yourself, that's what your nervous system interpreted.
Right.
You got that?
Right, yeah.
Now, while I'm doing this from the psychological point of view and logical, intuitive point of view, you might want to keep asking yourself, how did I know that, right?
Well.
Okay, so because I'm using both parts of my brain here. I'm using both sides of myself, or all sides of myself, to demonstrate, not just talk about, but to demonstrate something to you. If you don't belong, and you're in a strange foreign situation, and you've had a break, what we call a break in belonging, and you're not sufficient to the task, right?
Right.
In other words, there's nothing you could do about that. You couldn't be a blonde-haired, blue-eyed American that spoke Valley talk, right?
I still can, you know.
Right? Exactly. You couldn't do that, right? You could not be that no matter what.
Right.
So what could you do? Be smart, be clever, be intelligent, be a good student, yes?
Yes, that's so true.
Right, you could be all that. That you could do.
Right.
And probably at the age of 14, your education was probably far superior to the 14-year-old education over here.
Yeah, for
Because
sure.
the schools are way ahead over in Iran, right? Aren't they?
As far as the math-wise, yes.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably a number of things in which, you know, I'm sorry, but I'm really down on American schools, and I don't apologize for me being down on American schools. I think that they waste everybody's time, and that you could learn the things that they teach there much faster.
Right.
And much easier with a lot more fun. And so, in a way, that's why I've taken on educating people, because I want to educate people quickly, efficiently, and with a lot of fun.
Right.
I think that's how we learn. Anyhow, you didn't belong, and you did the thing that you always do, which is you referred to your survival, which is how we survive. As we look out ahead, we predict what's going to happen and how we can fix it, and we strategize with our logical left brain thinking into a way of surviving that situation, which is what you did. Now it's kind of become a who you are. You know what I mean? You can't find yourself, and it's time to do that. You're 25 years old, and you've made this call because it's time for you to find you now.
Right, and I really want to. You know, I don't want to be like this forever, you know, because I know it's been a while, you know, and it's not like only a few months, you know.
And I want you to hear what I'm about to say, not as a criticism, but as a feedback for you, because you need to hear, you need to see yourself. You know, how I knew that it happened around the age of 12 to 14 was that is your voice and speech pattern. You talk like a 12-year-old, and you're 25. And that's how I know that you're, well, I know, don't be, I mean, you could be embarrassed if you want, but I don't say it to embarrass you. I say it so that you can catch yourself and realize that you don't sound like a woman who is at a stage where many women throughout history have become mothers.
Yeah, I don't feel like that.
Yeah, you still are a little girl in many ways because your natural, normal development got stopped at a certain point.
That is so true, Dr. Morgan, because like right now when I see like people who get pregnant, I don't get it. Like,
it's unimaginable, right?
Yeah. What's that?
It's unimaginable.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I freak out, you know, or then I see people in a relationship, and I'm like, that's not for me, you know.
Because
oh
you're
my
still
God,
a little girl.
How do you do that?
Right.
You know,
So
like, I feel like a little kid, you know, who's watching people, and I'm all like, you know, fearful because I feel like if I do anything that they're doing right now, I'm going to fail, you know.
Yes,
I'm not
exactly.
going to achieve because I'm not ready for it, you know.
Yeah. So my strong recommendation to you, get some help either from myself or my wife or somebody that's in developmental psychology, okay? There are stages of developments in human beings, and you can get stuck at it at a certain age.
Right.
Right? You can get stuck at a certain age, and you know, even though you grow up and your body develops and you know, your social income develops and everything, somewhere there's a stuckness. And I'm sure you've seen many people that are in their 40s and they're still acting like a teenager or a kid. They never grew up, right?
Yes.
So the fact that you turned on this show and that you called here and asked that question shows me that you are ready to change that now. You're ready to develop that. And here's the good news. It doesn't take very long. And in the case of myself and the work that I do in hypnotherapy and neurological repatterning, it literally takes hours, not days, weeks, months, or years. Literally, it takes a few hours.
Right. I would love to.
You fast forward into a new state because, you know, and this is not about religion. In the Bible, they talk about, there's some passage that talks about all the time that was lost is never lost, it's always regained. I believe that this is what that passage is about. It's all of the development has been going on, but in the background, in the subconscious mind, your own wisdom has been developing all along. But your conscious mind, there's a disconnect between the conscious and the subconscious mind. And what I do when I work with people is I reconnect them to their infinite, vast resources so that their development is like instantaneous. It's very, very quick. And so there's not and it doesn't go back. In other words, you know, if you've been taking a certain way to work or school every day for 20 years, right? And that was the only way that you go, and so you get out of your driveway, you just automatically go that way, right?
Right. Yes.
Now, if all of a sudden they built a brand new freeway that took 30 minutes off your trip, how long would it take you to take the new way?
Of course, I would just take
right away, right? Even though you'd been going this other way all this time, you didn't have to like talk yourself into it. It's just a faster way, so you just go that way.
Right. Right.
This is very much like that. When we repattern someone's neurology, we find a more efficient, effective way of living your life with vaster resources, then very quickly you learn. It's rapid, accelerated learning. So very quickly you learn, you develop, and you change. And it's just like that's the way it is. And you couldn't believe that you used to take that old, long way to work, right? You kind of look back and go, wow, man, I wish I'd have did this 30 years ago, in my case. Okay?
Yes, thank you so much.
All right. If you want to find out more about that, you can call the office or you can contact me directly, and I'd love to talk to you about it and see if there's something that you would like to do to change this like quickly, or else, you know, but don't try to just do it on your own because
I know, it never
probably won't happen.
All right.
All right? Thank you very much.
Morgan. You have a great day.
You too. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye. I've been talking today about honor and integrity and mastery, and the importance of male initiation, the importance of young men being brought into manhood by the older, wiser men of the community, of the tribe. And throughout the ages, traditionally, that was obviously the fathers and the uncles and the chieftains of the tribe who would bring a young man forward from his adolescence, from his puberty. There's a stage where we are neither children nor are we men. And there's a passage that is necessary for young men in order to assure that they do not waver and move over to the, it's kind of like Star Wars, the dark side of their power, the warrior-like part of men, the natural aggression, the sexual aggression, and the violent aggression of men, when put to the service of society, when put to the service of a higher good, a greater good, causes society to be stabilized, safe, and to work well. When fathers and husbands develop as a result of their natural love of humanity, their respect and reverence and cherishing of women and children and of society, then we can have a stable society that moves forward with velocity, that expands, and in which people are able to find their full self-expression. Men do not have to feel trapped in marriages, in their jobs. However, many men do. And I believe that that is a result of them not having ever fully developed. Men and women are very, very different in this aspect. Women, if they simply grow up, and they will naturally, if they're raised by a mother and a father that loves them, they will naturally develop in and become a woman capable of becoming a mother herself. It is very, very different for men. Boys, because they grow up and they get testosterone and they develop and they get hairy and they get a deeper voice, doesn't necessarily make them into a man. They could be a boy for their entire lifetime and still be dependent upon women. A man that is dependent upon women for his validation, in other words, when a man seeks validation of his manhood through women, whether it is his mother, his wife, 1,000 girls that he sleeps with, however he seeks that validation, by being cruel to them, by being nice to them, however he does that, as long as he is seeking validation of his manhood, trying to find his own inner worth as a man through women, he will be abusive, he will be quick to anger, he will be, he actually becomes, subconsciously, whether he will ever admit it or not, but his actions demonstrate that he will actually become a woman hater. How I know that he hates women is because you can look in his life and there will be a lot of hurt women in that man's life. There will be women with broken hearts, there will be women with broken homes, there will be women who have been ruined financially, physically, emotionally, spiritually, who have been damaged or hurt by men such as these. And yet they will profess to love women, to love all women, to adore women, to want to take care of women. That's what they will profess. The man who truly has found his own core and his own value as a man will cherish and protect and provide for women and children, whether anybody notices it or not, whether anybody cares whether he does that or not. Yeah, will he want appreciation and validation? You bet. He would very much love to be appreciated and validated. However, he's not doing it for that. He's protecting and providing for society and women and children because it's a natural expression of who he is as a man. Men like that do truly love women, do truly love children. They can be relied upon to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. He will not dishonor himself by doing that which is dishonorable, and he also honors other men. He respects other men and he honors other men, whether he likes them or not. Many times we've seen, like in the movies and stuff, where two enemies actually begin to respect each other and to honor each other, to watch out for each other even though they may be enemies. Men express their love for other men by respecting them, by paying them respect or by honoring them. In the samurai days, we know of the samurais, we in our cultures know of the samurai warriors of Japan, as we only know about their warrior aspect, but the samurai in fact meant the protector of society. And there were samurai men and women. A samurai was a caste of society who took it upon themselves to be the protectors of society, and so therefore were charged with that as an expression of their honor, as an expression of their nobility. So the samurai caste were responsible for many of the finest parts of Japanese culture, the fine cooking, poetry, calligraphy, Zen meditation, many of the things that we've come to associate with a refined life in a very sophisticated and refined culture that Japan has been and still is, were brought about by the samurai caste. Now, one of the things that they were very, very good at was protecting themselves. In other words, they were great warriors, great fighters, great martial artists. And so consequently, that's a lot more interesting to make movies and write books and tell stories about wars with samurai warriors and swords and such than it is to talk about their poetry and all that stuff. But I can tell you that in that society, the men had a stronger bond with their love and honor with each other than they did with women and children. They had a stronger bond. Their commitment was deeper with the warriors of their caste than it was with the women and children of their society, even though they saw themselves as the protectors of that society. But I wanted to bring that up as an expression of something that I've been teaching in various forms throughout my lifetime. I had the honor to be taught by warriors in the path of Aikido, which is a Japanese martial art, which is an extension also of Iaido, which is the Japanese samurai sword. So there are teachings that are enveloped within those martial arts that bring out the highest and the best in a man. And those are some of the things that I've been wanting to share with some of the men in my life. I'm going to go ahead and take some calls. Hello, this is Gregory, and you are live on the air.
Hi, Gregory. My name is Carly. How are you?
Glad to meet you, Carly. I'm great. Thank you for calling.
Thank you. I just wanted to ask and get some tips with regards to, I'm 41 years old, and I'm just getting over, I don't even want to call it a relationship, but I'm a guy that I'm totally obsessed and infatuated with, but he doesn't have the time of day for me, in a sense.
Okay, I'm sorry to hear that.
It's taken me a while to figure that out.
Okay.
Or to believe it, I guess.
All right.
So I don't know. So I'm just trying to figure out some tips or any advice that you can kind of give on how to forget him, how to not obsess over him, how to clear my mind from just the bad negativity that he just brings me down, right?
I got it.
It's not a good relationship. I don't feel happy. It's not.
Is he out of your life now?
He does call, yes. I don't make any more interactions with him, but he does call.
And when he calls, what's the nature of that? Is it like, can I borrow the salt, or do you want to go out, or what's the nature of his call?
Well, he called yesterday, and basically the nature of his call was more of a booty call in a sense.
I got it. Okay. I can appreciate that. How long were you in a relationship with him?
On and off, and again, I wouldn't call it we were dating or seeing each other. It never got serious. He just basically backed away from the time that we ended up getting, we got intimate.
Right.
And from that time on, he just totally broke away, and I've been trying to figure out what happened ever since. But it's about a year and a half now.
So on and off for a year and a half, and then you got intimate after a certain period of time, and then he backed off.
Correct.
Okay, I got it. And so now he calls just for the sex or the intimacy.
Yeah, lately, yes.
Yeah.
It's been the last.
We won't call it intimacy, even though that's a nice word for it, because if you were really intimate, you probably still would be.
Yeah, I don't know if you can say,
Yeah,
BF friend, right?
Yeah, right. But let's just call it sex, because sex is sex, and that's what it is, and there's nothing wrong with sex. Sex is a good thing, but it's not necessarily intimate.
It's not, because I can't detach myself from it.
Right.
I'm totally emotionally involved, and I've told him I wanted more, but he totally avoids the situation or the question and just doesn't want to answer it. And I try not to pry and be all needy. I'm not really needy. I'm a very successful, independent woman.
I can hear that.
But at the same time, I feel I have like no control over
that.
My words.
Yeah, no, I got that.
Even my emotions when I'm with him. I just feel like I'm spellbound, which is unlike me. Let's put it that way.
It's funny. It happens with all of us, men too. Okay, emotions and intelligence seem to work inversely. Okay, you're basically suffering from what I will call oxytocin bonding. You may have heard us talk about this before, and if you haven't, have you ever heard me talk about this on the show?
Yes.
Yeah, oxytocin bonding, right? Listen, the second most addictive drug on the planet is oxytocin.
Yes.
Okay, produced in the hypothalamus, produced, in abundance in women, as nature's means. It's the bonding hormone, and it's nature's means of having you bond with, for a lifetime, the children that you have and the men that made you have them. Okay? So if you have satisfying sex with a man, you are going to have a spike of oxytocin that washes over your brain and your entire nervous system, telling every cell in your body, this is the one. Okay?
That's it. Yep.
And you're going to have that basically every time you smell him. It's triggered by pheromones. So if you got any stuff around that smells like him, get it out of there. Now, if you want to break the oxytocin bonding, I'm going to tell you how to do that. Is that what you want to do?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, it's like kicking heroin, all right? Okay, it's much more addictive than heroin.
Well, you know what? When you say that and you put it that way, it definitely feels that way, because it's not logical for me.
Yeah.
And I'm a very logical person, and I don't understand this. And I'm like, okay, I know it's oxytocin. But I don't know.
It doesn't change anything. Okay, now I know I'm addicted to heroin. Give me some, right?
Exactly.
Give me some more, right?
But that's not me, though. But that's not me.
Of course.
So I'm constantly living in that denial.
I know. Well,
right?
so once you come to terms with it, though, right, it's okay. I'm addicted to coffee.
Okay.
I'm addicted to coffee, all right? I totally own it. I'm addicted to coffee. As long as there's plenty of coffee, I'm fine. If there's no coffee in the morning, then I do whatever it takes to get the coffee.
Okay, right? So it's kind of like, what is it?
Right?
So do I have to admit that I'm addicted to oxytocin?
Well, you're addicted to this guy.
Yes.
Right? You're addicted to this guy like heroin. And that means that when I say an addiction, it's anything that you can't control, that actually controls you, even though you know it's not good for you, and that it may be harmful to your health, your well-being in any way, your finances, your relationships. It's unhealthy, and yet you can't stop doing it.
Correct. I guess there's also
and there's a tendency to call it something it's not.
Okay.
Right?
I guess there's that small hope that maybe he'll change, and I can't believe I even said that.
Well, I know.
Maybe he'll change, or maybe he'll mature, because he's not a young fellow either. He's like 39 years old, never been married as well, but it's like, dude, when are you going to kind of wake up?
Okay, so...
Like, you keep telling me you want a family, you keep telling me you want to get together, but, have a family, kind of have a relationship and all that, but... Well,
that's kind of like a duck hunter making little quacking sounds, so the ducks will come closer.
Yes.
Okay? Men are very, very good at saying what they need to say to get you into bed.
Yeah, it worked. It worked really well.
We know what to say. Come on. He's like you said, he's no dummy, right? So there's a couple of things going on here, okay? And I love it that you've called. You sound like a fabulous woman. I'm going to give you a few things that you might want to look at really quick, okay? A, you've gotten involved with a guy that's younger than you, when it's pretty widely understood that women are about 8 to 10 years advanced emotionally.
Right.
All right, so you're way ahead of him. You're ready for marriage and long-term committed relationship and all that kind of stuff. He's not.
Right.
Okay, so your hope that he will be, you could hope until you're 45, and maybe he will, and maybe not. right?
Right.
And even then, if he's good looking and has money, he'll go get a 20-year-old.
Yeah,
Okay?
I hear that.
He'll get a 30-year-old or whatever, right? So getting involved at your age with a man younger than you, the likelihood, just statistically, of that ever working out is narrow already.
Okay.
Okay, so you kind of bet on a thin slice of possibility that it might work out.
Okay.
Okay? So that wasn't necessarily a good bet. If I was betting, I wouldn't bet on that one. Right?
Fair enough.
Okay? You bet on it, it didn't work out, okay? There's a price to
Seeing
pay.
my bosses now.
Huh? Now, yeah, there's a price to pay now, and it's called the and I don't want to scare you, but I've seen it take up to 2 years to debond from somebody, depending on how good the sex was and how disciplined the woman was in breaking the bond.
Wow.
Okay?
Okay.
So if you really want to break the bond, you have to be very resolute about it. And so you got to ask yourself these questions right now. You don't have to answer them right now with me in this conversation, which I only have about 3 minutes left on the show. You're going to get rid of absolutely everything that has any smell, any look, any photographs, anything that's his, get it out. Now, if it's at your house or something and you want to be nice enough to say, come get your stuff, it'll be on a box on the front porch, you can do that. Otherwise, burn it. And when you're burning it, and I suggest you burn it in a fireplace, a barbecue pit, or take it down to the beach, dig a little hole in the sand and set it on fire, whatever you do, but do it in a ritual way so that your subconscious can say, I am now destroying this link. Do you understand? Rituals are very important to the subconscious mind, and that's an important way to do that. If you burn photographs and stuff like that, your subconscious mind says, I'm really doing this, because you have to tell your conscious mind to do it, right?
Correct. Okay. I
Okay,
get
so
that.
you ritualistically, in the most efficient way possible, throw that stuff away, get it out of there.
Okay.
Anything that smells like him in particular. Then you erase his number and everything from your phone. You tell all of your friends or anybody that knows the guy, don't give him any information about me. I'm cutting off all communication. You tell him, don't call me, don't write to me, don't text to me, don't drive by my house, don't talk to my friends and ask them questions about me. This is over, and I need it to be over, period. And I request that you respect this. It's not a request, it's a demand. If you call, I don't care if you have a car wreck, don't call me.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yep. Okay.
And then don't respond if he does. If he texts, if he writes, if he calls, delete immediately and tell yourself, delete. Actually say it out loud, delete, so that you're programming your subconscious to respond to that like a delete.
Okay.
Okay? Now that's the fastest I can do with you in the little short time that we have, but those are the physical things that you need to do. As far as the internal subconscious reprogramming and repatterning, that's something I could do in an hour with you. You would be so repulsed by even the thought of him that there would be no way that you could ever be addicted to him again. That's called neurological repatterning. It's something that I'm a master at. If you would like to do a session with that, that's something that I do. Otherwise, you can take these practices and put them to work for yourself.
Okay.
But you got to be very resolute about it.
Okay.
You know, it's kind of like, okay, I no more heroin for me. And then anybody that's taking heroin or you got to get them out of your life, right?
Yes.
You can't
I
keep,
hear you.
if
Okay.
you wanted to stop smoking, you wouldn't keep ashtrays, cigarette lighters, and packages around and go hang out where they smoke, right?
Correct.
You got to get rid of that stuff. So this is something that has that kind of an effect on your neurological system, because you were designed to bond with the guy that gave you great sex. Simple as that. It's nature.
Okay.
Okay?
I hear you.
It's very strong. And so just, and I would love to help you with this. I can do it with you in a 2-hour session.
Okay.
Okay, so if that's something you're interested in doing.
Okay, I'll have to think about that part of it, but I can probably call you back at another time.
Well, okay, there's my number is on the screen, and you can call and find out about sessions with me, or you can write to me at gregory@embracegrowth.com.
Perfect.
Okay?
Thank you.
All right, I've got to wrap up the show. Thanks for calling. Thanks for your trust.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. All
Okay,
right.
bye.
I'll see you all next week on Love Talk.